Hello and welcome to the new season of the Drawn and Redrawn, the Making of India's Internal Boundaries podcast. This is a part of a larger India State Stories project that explores the evolution of India's political and administrative boundaries. This project is an undertaking by the Centre for Legislative Education and Research at Flame University in Pune. In this new season, we embark on a journey through the fascinating histories and narratives of each Indian state and union territories, exploring the pivotal events, influential personalities, and societal transformations that have shaped the subcontinent. In this 25th episode, we trace the history of formation behind the important border state of Punjab. This episode is based on a corresponding article written by our team at India State Stories. These articles have been converted to audio conversations with the help of Google's Notebook LM. You can find the relevant article link in the show notes. Now, let's dive into the conversation.
I want to start today with a saying I came across while we were prepping for this deep dive. It's a Punjabi phrase, and honestly, it stopped me in my tracks. Jiso varvi sinjda paindahov, sinun apni mitinu harvele tayar milda hai.
It's powerful, isn't it?
So powerful.
For anyone listening, it roughly translates to, even if we need to water it 100 times, we are always ready for our land.
Always ready for our land. There's just such a deep sense of resilience in that. And I think for most of us, when we picture the map of Punjab or, think about its history, our brains sort of auto-complete to one date. 1947, Partition.
Right. The tragedy.
Exactly.
And that's completely understandable. I mean, the partition was cataclysmic. It defines the modern era in so many ways. But here's the thing. If we only focus on 1947, we are missing the much, much bigger story.
Right.
The story of Punjab isn't just about being cut in half one time. It's a story of a region that has been sliced, diced, merged, expanded, and contracted over and over again for more than a century.
It really is a shapeshifter of a state. So I guess that's our mission today. We're going to trace these shifting lines on the map, from the fall of this massive empire in 1849, through all the British experiments, the trauma of 47, and then finally to the linguistic reorganizations that gave us the modern Indian states of Punjab, Haryana, and Himachal Pradesh.
Exactly. And this isn't just about cartography, drawing lines for the fun of it. By understanding how these lines moved, we can actually understand why the politics of the region are the way they are today. We get the identity disputes, the water issues, even the bizarre geography of its capital, Chandigarh.
So let's rewind the clock. Way back, we go to 1849, the Sikh Empire.
This is the turning point. After the Second Anglo-Sikh War, the British East India Company officially annexes the Sikh Empire. And that marks the definitive end of sovereign rule for the Sikh monarchs.
And the source material really highlights the Treaty of Lahore, which was signed in 1849. It mentions that Maharaja Duleep Singh, he was just a child, really had to resign sovereignty of the Punjab to the Queen of England.
Precisely. It was the shift to direct British administration. But, map-making under the British wasn't about respecting cultural boundaries, not at all. It was about what they called administrative convenience.
Administrative convenience?
Yeah, they treated the map like a grand chessboard where they could just move pieces wherever they fit best for tax collection and control.
And speaking of moving pieces, this is where I found one of those facts that just feels wrong, even though it's true. The notes say that for a huge chunk of time, Delhi was actually part of Punjab.
It sounds strange to us now, doesn't it? But yes, if you look at the records from, say, 1858, you'll find Delhi listed as a district right there within the Punjab province.
But why? I mean, Delhi has such a distinct identity. Why would you lump it in with Punjab?
It was, believe it or not, a form of punishment. After the uprising of 1857, the British stripped Delhi of its status and just sort of tucked it under the Punjab administration to keep it under tighter control, and it stayed that way for over 50 years.
50 years. So for half a century, the future capital of India was just a district in Punjab. When did they finally break it up?
1911. And this connects to the bigger picture of British instability in India. In the early 1900s, there was a massive nationalist movement sweeping through Bengal, especially after its partition. Calcutta, which was the capital of the Raj, was becoming a real hotbed of protests.
So the British were thinking, it's getting too hot in the kitchen, we need to move the house.
That's a great way to put it. They needed a more stable, more central capital. So at the Durbar of 1911, the decision was made. Shift the capital to New Delhi. And to do that, they had to surgically remove the Delhi district from the Punjab province.
Okay, so Punjab shrinks a little bit there.
Yeah.
But even without Delhi, looking at the map of Punjab in the 1920s, It looks like a nightmare for anyone trying to govern. It's not just a solid block of color, is it?
Oh, far from it. It was a patchwork quilt. You had the British districts, which were directly ruled, but then scattered all through that, you had the princely states, about 18 major ones, and nearly 29, if you count all the little hill states.
The example from the notes that stuck with me was the state of Kapurthala. It wasn't one solid piece of land. It had these islands of territory sitting right inside the British district of Jalandhar.
Exactly. I mean, imagine trying to build a road or a canal through that. If you wanted to travel to Kangra, you might have to cross the borders of multiple different hill states just to get there. It was a complete logistical maze, different political departments managing different kinds of states. It was just administrative chaos, really, held together only by the overarching power of the British Raj.
Until, of course, the British Raj ends,
Mm-hmm.
and we hit the Great Divide, 1947.
And this is the moment the map didn't just shift, it broke. The Radcliffe Line.
We've talked about 1947 in other deep dives, but looking at the specific data here for Punjab, it just paints such a heavy picture. This wealthy, fertile province was just sliced down the middle.
Yep. West Punjab, Muslim majority, goes to Pakistan. East Punjab, Hindu and Sikh majority, stays in India.
And we really have to pause on the human cost of drawing that one line. The sources estimate that communal violence led to nearly 20 lakh. That's 2 million deaths.
2 million.
Yeah.
And the migration, it involved about 1 crore, or 10 million people, crossing that new border in both directions.
It's hard to even process numbers that big. 10 million people. That's like the entire population of Sweden just picking up and moving.
It completely reset the board. And this is a really crucial insight from the reading that explains so much of what happens later. Before 1947, Sikhs were scattered across the whole region. They were often a minority in their own districts just because they were so spread out. But this mass migration, it forced them into this concentrated block in East Punjab.
So ironically, the partition that split the land actually consolidated the community.
Precisely. It changed the cultural fabric of the state overnight. And looking at the map, the new government had to scramble. I mean, you can't run a state that's just a collection of refugees and old princely kingdoms without some kind of order.
Right, because all those little islands of princely states we just talked about, Kapurthala, Patiala, they were all still technically separate entities when the British left.
Correct. So there was an immediate need for consolidation. In 1948, just a year later, they merged the princely states into a new entity called Partition, the Patiala and East Punjab States Union.
It sounds less like a state and more like a corporate merger or something.
In a way, it was. It pooled the resources of Patiala, Jind, Kapurthala, and all the others. And at the same time, the East Punjab Hill states were all grouped together to form the entity that would eventually become Himachal Pradesh.
So by 1948, the map is already looking drastically different from just 2 years before. But East Punjab had this very specific, very tangible problem. They'd lost their capital. Lahore, the jewel of Punjab, the nerve center. He was now in Pakistan.
Imagine losing Washington, D.C. or London overnight. The entire bureaucracy, the high court, the records, everything was centered in Lahore. East Punjab was a state without a head.
So Prime Minister Nehru steps in. And reading the notes, he didn't just want to build an office building. He had a vision.
He saw an opportunity. He wanted a city that symbolized the future, something, unencumbered by the traditions and baggage of the past. And this is the birth of Chandigarh.
And in comes Le Corbusier, the famous architect. The plan was to create something modern, distinct. And officially, in 1963, the capital moves from its temporary spot up in Shimla to Chandigarh.
Which, interestingly, wasn't without controversy. The sources mention protests from displaced farmers whose land was taken to build this modern utopia. It's just a reminder that every line drawn on a map, every city planned, usually comes at a cost to someone on the ground.
But while the bricks were being laid in Chandigarh, the political foundation was shaking again. We're moving into the 1950s now, and the issue isn't borders with Pakistan anymore, it's language.
This is the rise of the linguistic struggle. You have the Indian National Congress on one side and the Shiromani Akali Dal on the other. And Master Tara Singh, a key leader of the Akali Dal, started demanding a Punjabi Suba, a state specifically for Punjabi speakers, as early as 1948.
And the government tried to patch this up with something called the Sachar formula in 1949. But looking at the critique of it, seems like it just backfired.
Massively. The Sachar formula was this compromise where they tried to divide East Punjab into administrative Hindi zones and Punjabi zones, but instead of calming things down, it just highlighted the differences. It kind of institutionalized the divide without actually granting the autonomy people wanted.
So fast forward to 1956. The States Reorganization Commission is looking at the whole map of India. This was the moment where so many states were being redrawn on linguistic lines. Do they finally give the Sikhs their Punjabi Suba?
No, in fact, they went the completely opposite direction, and this is really important to understand. The central government was terrified that splitting border states would weaken national security. So instead of splitting Punjab in 1956, they merged PPCU into it.
Wait, I'm confused. The Akalis want a smaller Punjabi-speaking state. The Hindi speakers want their own space. So the commission decides to merge everyone into one giant state. What was the logic there?
It was a classic case of dilution is the solution. They thought if they created this massive bilingual state, effectively a giant holding tank, with the Punjabi plains, the Hindi-speaking areas, the hill regions, they could neutralize the majority power of any single group.
So they tried to drown out the demand for separation by just making the pool bigger.
Exactly. But as we all know from pressure cookers, sealing the lid tighter doesn't stop the steam, it just builds more pressure. By the 1960s, the third movement for consolidation is underway. And what's fascinating here is that the pressure wasn't just coming from the Punjabi speakers anymore.
Right, the sources mentioned the Haryana Lok Samiti. So now you have the Hindi speakers in the southeastern plains also saying, hey, we're being left behind economically. We want our own state too.
It became a pincer movement. The Hindi speakers felt the Punjab government was prioritizing Punjabi and neglecting their development. The Punjabi speakers felt their identity was being diluted. Basically, everyone was unhappy.
But the central government had resisted this for years. What finally tipped the scales? Because in 1966, they suddenly agreed to split the state.
It took a war, the 1965 India-Pakistan War.
Why did a war change things?
The Sikh community played a massive role in the defense of the country. The fighting was right on their doorstep. And the sources note that this really underscored the community's importance and loyalty in the eyes of the central government. It was the catalyst that made the center finally say, okay, we cannot afford to have a disgruntled population on a border state. We need to solve this.
So we finally arrive at the climax of our map-making journey. November 1st, 1966, the Punjab Reorganization Act. This is the trifurcation.
The map we know today is born right here. The massive state of Punjab is split 3 ways based on language and geography.
Okay, let's break it down. Who got what?
First, you get the modern state of Punjab. This was made up of the Punjabi-speaking northwestern districts. This was, in essence, the Punjabi Suba that the Akali Dal had fought for so long.
Part 2.
Part 2 is Haryana. The Hindi-speaking southeastern plains were carved out to create this new state.
And Part 3.
The hill regions. They were transferred over to Himachal Pradesh, which at the time was a union territory, but would later become a full state.
But there's a twist.
Yeah.
A very weird, very unique twist involving the capital, Chandigarh.
Yes. Usually when you split a state, one keeps the capital and the other builds a new one. But both Punjab and Haryana laid claim to Chandigarh. It was sitting right on the new border, and both sides felt it was theirs.
So surely they didn't just cut the city in half.
No, the central government came up with a solution that was meant to be temporary but has become permanent. Chandigarh became a union territory itself, so it's administered by the center. But it serves as the shared capital for both states.
Which is just wild when you think about it. You have 2 different state governments, 2 assemblies, 2 bureaucracies, all sitting in the same city.
Sometimes in the same buildings. It's a total bureaucratic anomaly. It was a solution designed to stop an immediate conflict, but what it did was embed a permanent complexity into the region's politics. It turned the city into a permanent bone of contention.
So 1966 gives us the borders. But what happens inside those borders is just as important. And the source material pivots here to something that changed the landscape physically, not just politically. The Green Revolution.
Right, and this is where geography dictates destiny. Think about it. Punjab had lost the vast canal colonies of West Punjab to Pakistan in 47. Then in 66, it lost the hill tracts to Himachal. It was now a small, compact state comprised almost entirely of fertile plains.
So the land had to work harder.
Much, much harder. In the late 60s and 70s, this new consolidated Punjab became the laboratory for high-yield farming. It earned the title India's breadbasket. The central government pumped in resources, new seeds, technology, all to ensure food security for the whole nation.
Sounds like a huge success story.
In terms of production, absolutely. It stopped famines in India, but the source material is very clear about the cost. To feed the nation, the state had to overexploit its water table and its soil. Monoculture, just growing wheat and rice over and over, replaced the traditional diverse crops.
And this leads us right into the 1980s. The outline mentions this as a turbulent time, but reading between the lines, it seems connected to these resource issues.
It's deeply connected. The sources frame the 1980s, the insurgency, the violence, the tragic events of 1984, not just as a religious conflict, but as a result of political and economic grievances that stem directly from the 1966 reorganization.
The unfinished business of the borders.
Exactly. Issues like the sharing of river waters between Punjab and Haryana, the final status of Chandigarh, the demand for greater state autonomy as outlined in the Anandpur Sahib resolution. These weren't abstract concepts. They were about resources and control.
So the lines drawn in 1966 solved the language issue, but they created these brand new friction points over water and power.
Correct. And that period of the 80s profoundly shaped the modern Sikh identity. It added a really deep layer of historical trauma to the geography we've been discussing. It's why you can't look at the politics of Punjab today without understanding the scars of that decade.
It's a lot to take in. We started with the fall of an empire, watched the British draw lines for tax collection, saw the horrific slash of partition, the merging of princely states, and then the linguistic sorting hat of 1966.
And through all of that, the land itself, the miti from our opening quote, remained.
So what does this all mean? If you're listening to this right now, why does knowing that Delhi left Punjab in 1911 or that Haryana was born in 1966, why does that matter?
It matters because it challenges the idea that our borders are static or natural. We tend to look at a map and think, oh, this is how it's always been. But the story of Punjab proves that a state is a fluid concept. It shapes and it shifts based on pressure, political pressure, linguistic pressure, religious pressure.
And it explains so much about the news today. When you hear about farmers' protests or water disputes between Punjab and Haryana or the status of Chandigarh, it's not just petty politics, it's the direct legacy of these decisions made decades ago.
The lines on the map settled in 1966, but the issues that drew those lines, identity, resources, language, they're still very much alive.
I want to leave everyone with a thought to chew on. We talked about how administrative lines can turn into cultural realities, but I wonder, is it maybe the other way around?
That's the provocative question, isn't it? Do we draw lines to manage people, or do the people's culture and identity eventually force the lines to move? In Punjab's case, it really seems like the people, their language, and their resilience force the map to bend to them, not the other way around.
It brings us right back to that opening quote.
It does. Despite losing rivers to Pakistan, losing hill stations to Himachal, and sharing a capital, the distinct identity of Punjab remains incredibly robust.
Even if we need to water it 100 times, we're always ready for our land.
Always ready.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, and keep questioning the lines on your map.